This is our second to last video in this series where we are looking at all these different AI agents, well, one AI agent, and then all these different AI platforms, and we're just trying to compare based off of sources. How many does it sort? Are they real? And how does it explain things? We're comparing if all of these would be as good of a Bible study assistant as Logos Bible Studies Assistant is. Logos Bible Studies Logos Bible Study Assistant is an AI assistant. It does not connect to the internet, so it has that different, but it can look through all the sources in Logos, and it has this thing where it has the benefit of being able to like have direct links to that, which I think will be really helpful. So far, we've seen some really promising things. For some reason, we included an LDSBot in on this, but the highest score of any of the AI things was Claude with 427 out of 540. And then the agent got above that at 580 or 484 out of 540. And so that's the number to beat for the Logos assessment. We have 15 questions that are in multiple categories. The blackout one, we just didn't have time for. We thought were repetitive. So 15 questions, Logos Bible Study Assistant. Let's see what it's got. Let's see what it's got. I hope it doesn't mess too much up with OBS. Sometimes having both of them open at once really sends me for a loop. And I don't really need this LDSBot open anymore. Or the agent. So hopefully that'll help with some of the computer power. I kind of want to open up a task manager, but I'm a little scared that it will let's also let's open up a task manager real quick just to make sure. It'll kind of give us an idea. That's not looking good. There's not 0% CPU work. Okay. Well, we're in good range. I think OBS should be doing good. I turned down the frames per second, so this should be good. We're gonna do this. We're just gonna split screen this here. This would have made every other analysis easier probably. Here's Logos. You actually have to have premium to use the assistant. You don't have to, but you only get 3 prompts in the free version. So I went ahead and paid for it because I also use this anyway. But I have high hopes. I don't think it's bad. The whole point of this video is not to prove that this is a bad tool. The point of this video has just been, I'm just curious if we can create the same functionality with an AI agent. I knew that the Logos Bible Study Assistant would do better than general AI, just because general AI does not always give you the details or the explanation or the sources that you might desire when you're trying to study something. But as I heard Ruslan, he was talking about this study assistant. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's just an agent. So an agent is specific instructions you give to an AI platform. And so I feel like that's what this is. I'm curious how it's gonna rank. I'm just curious. Let's move the questions thing over so we don't have to keep scrolling. We'll move it down here. And then we have our questions and we will begin asking. I don't know what to expect. I haven't used this at all. I literally haven't pressed buttons in here. I don't like that the help card is right underneath the button. That's kind of annoying. Can I just click enter? Okay. And you have 50 prompts that you can do in one chat window in the Study Assist. So you might have to make new chats. I'm going to make new chats for each one, I think. And then you can have it just look through your books. That way it only looks at the books you have, because even if it finds other books, you might not be able to click on them or read them. But to me, like, if it just finds other books, that's helpful. I like that it already has 2 other books. That's great. Let's assess this here. Study. I'm actually going to move myself for this video. I moved myself to the middle, that way I'm not taking up too much of the Logos screen or the questions and stuff. So that's why I moved. Stands as the most frequently quoted psalm throughout the New Testament. You could have explained what that meant. Oh, here you go. And it's a little bit shorter, you might notice, than in the previous videos when we compare the other AI. But you can also click on all these, so it doesn't need to quote them. The other, like all of the other ones, they quote sometimes they don't. They quote in the output, but here, like, it just has links, so you can click on that and see the quotes. That's a lot more verifiable. So for this question, we're going to give it a 9 for the sources. I like all the sources it has. Though it could, it has a source for even defining typology. Perfect. Where do we use 2? Oh, here. I like that explanation of answer. I think that's a good answer, honestly. It talks about how I think it's a good answer. Good job. This is not a partnership with this also, just so you know. I'm just curious, and we are going to find out answers. We're going to find out if this is the same thing as making an agent in Claude or whatever AI you want to use. I think the little stars make me think it's built off of like ChatGPT or something. Maybe they just like stars. I don't know. So they really I think you could have done some more explaining of the alternate views. So I'm going to knock it down to an 8 because you could have quoted some of those other works and talked about some other views. But I think it's pretty. I think the answer is fine. I know that Logos is probably going to lean complementarian, but it hits heavy on like this is authority and doesn't. And I agree, but I also wish it would have talked more about the other views. That's missing for me. And maybe you don't care. I'm the one that's assessing it though. I'm gonna ask it though. What? It might not tell me. That's fine. Interesting. So we've hit a roadblock that we did not hit on anything else. 4 searches at once. Is it because it's the first one and... Let's just do the question then. While defining key terms. That's the same thing I'm trying to ask. It doesn't want to define the terms. Okay. Denotes the totality which has been through a combination. So I feel like we should dock it down somehow. Sources were good. Lots of storms going on outside. Lots of storms. Sources were good. Does it talk about the different views? Systematic theology. I think the sources were good here. Explanation of answer. It just took us a while to get there. The validity, fine. It's the same one that everyone else is given. Except without the holistic thing. Explanation, I'm gonna put it at 5. It explained it, but like you have to get there. I'm kind of looking for like you can't ask it. I didn't realize we were gonna be limited by like the complexity of our prompt. So that's interesting. And so then it couldn't explain what these terms mean. So I'm gonna leave it at 5 because there's key terms in our question that you couldn't define. And again, maybe you don't agree with how I'm assessing this. Did I skip something? I just did that. Okay. Maybe like in your mind, you're saying, whoa, Jillian, it doesn't need to do that because if you're asking the question, you should know what that means. And if you don't know what that means, then you're probably just copying and pasting from something. Yeah, but I just think it's healthy to I think it's just healthy to define those terms if you're going to be using big terms. I just think that's a smart idea for an assistant, a study assistant, to make sure you understand those terms. I don't know. I don't know how you define like define complex terms, but I think it should do that. I think it was really interesting that it struggled on that last question. Okay, I gotta pause because I think there might be a rainbow outside because it's really bright, but it was storming.
I know it seems like a really weird interruption to the video, and it's windy and loud, and I don't know if you can hear me, but I figured there would be a rainbow because it was pitch black and rainy, and then I could see the sun like that. And I think it's important to take moments to appreciate the rainbow because A, it's just a cool scientific phenomena of like water and light. That's why when it's storming and you see the sun brightly shining, you check the opposite sky for it. But also because God instituted it as a promise, a covenant to know it, he would never again destroy the earth by flood. So although it is very flooded in the state that I'm in, this is a lake, so that's not flooded, but actually it kind of is. You can see, uh, you can see how it's really coming up on the shoreline there. But anyway, it won't be destroyed by flood. So I think it's good to take moments and appreciate because it's really neat, biblically and scientifically.
I got a little wet checking out the rainbow. But we're back. I forget what we even did. Okay, we're assessing. Okay. You could have used. I think you could have quoted something for this. Like, as a Christian, I believe this, but like, if an atheist comes into this, say they did, and ask that question, it just feels a little misleading not to have anything about it. So, okay, that's fine. You really only quoted two sources, though, for a lot of claims that you made in one passage of scripture. Okay, you could have done better, man. We're actually gonna put you at a 6. You left me wanting. Yeah, your sources are valid. Explanation of answer left me wanting, to be honest. Yeah, the answer's valid, but I was left wanting a lot there. Oh, we no longer have access to the internet. Oh yeah, my phone left the house, and that's what I was connected to for internet. See if I can use my Wi-Fi. You left off with a strong claim that you didn't support with evidence. And you used two sources for this whole thing. That was better than the last one. Let's give it a 7. Yeah, they seem valid. Explanation. Again, like, I agree with where it gets, but it doesn't really take much time proving it. It's just like, that's just what Scripture does. Scripture just does that. Prove it to me. And prove to me how the arguments that you know are there for the other side aren't true. That's kind of what I think some of this is missing. It's not, it's also, it's not, I think part of building your case is also disproving easy counterpoints, and it's not doing that. All right, we gotta use my phone, I guess. The birds are chirping again now that it's dry. Let's turn the hotspot back on. Use that because the Wi-Fi is not cooperating with us at the moment. I don't know why it gets booted off the Wi-Fi. It doesn't make sense. And I thought it might be the USB dongle, but it stays on my phone Wi-Fi pretty easy, so I don't know. You didn't explain what the doctrine of illumination is, okay? Uh, Sources, I would give it an 8. Validity of sources, 9. That's fine. Explanation of answer, again, you didn't explain what the doctrine was. These are quotes. But how does it do that? Like, this is a perfect, you say it models the Spirit's interpretive function. I guess it models it. But why does that prove? Like, it just feels like a random point when you don't explain why. Like, again, Claude did the best out of all these on this one, explaining this is an agent that explains, like, a need for this kind of agent. Okay, I guess it did. I don't know. I kind of you did define it. I'm gonna give you a 9, and I'm gonna give you a 9. I got mad, but I didn't read that paragraph where it kind of defines it more. That's pretty good. I don't think it will remember across conversations, but I don't know. Don't worry, my cat's just hitting something in the hallway. That's okay. These are. Oh, he really wants to play. He brought his toy all the way in here. He brought his toy all the way in here from the living room. All right. Sorry, buddy. Normally we get home from work and we do play with them for a little bit, so he's been a good boy. He's just been sitting around all day not playing. Man, if you ain't gonna play with it, I'm not gonna continue playing with you. I think it's funny he dragged this. He had to have drugged this whole thing in here. Dude's crazy. Okay. So, this was question 8. I'm going to give it a 9 for sources. And I wish they would have used like church fathers, so I'm actually going to put it at an 8 there. And then explanation. I'm going to put that at, I'm going to say 8, and the answer is valid. There's so many things going on. My cat's playing with this toy. There's seagulls going in the background. I'll play with you a little more bit in a second, Thunder. I am trying to actually make a video, so. I mean, so let's give it an 8 and an 8, because it did a pretty good job. A significant gap. That was different than what Claude said. That's a good explanation. Sources. We could have used more sources to prove what Paul meant. We just proved what Augustine believed. So I'm actually going to put it at 6, because this is almost like comparing Pelagian with Augustine, except we're comparing like Paul and Augustine, and it quotes scripture. That's great. But here's where I find that lacking in the specific question specifically. That was in this question specifically. It is because Augustine read that same text and came to this conclusion. We know it's because it was in Latin, yes. I just feel like I would love it if they had used 1 or 2 sources on Paul's side to explain why the Greek translation and why this reading is different and more right than the Augustinian one. So I think they're lacking there. Explanation of answer. It's pretty good, and the answer is valid. It's a valid answer. I will say it didn't really hit on like what they agreed on, which I liked about how the other ones responded. They acknowledged like, okay, they both agree about this thing about that passage. I'm just gonna leave it at 8. Can't give it a perfect rating. Is it not? Is it gonna get worse than the? I can't see the numbers on the side, so I actually don't know how well it's doing right now. Quote, give me some books. Give me some pastoral books instead of just scripture and your interpretation. Give me some books. Give me some books. Do it. We have one book. There are other books you could have used that are really good on this topic. Timothy Keller's The Meaning of Marriage. Great book. So, and I know that that's like my objective, but like that whole book, The Meaning of Marriage, is talking about the meaning of marriage. Didn't talk a ton about community, so I don't love that. I actually don't like that. As okay. I wish I had different sources actually. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Explanation. That's fine. Oh, I thought it was done. I was like, you've got to quote more passages than. Okay, I was concerned for a second. I was like, really? Why is no one quoting? Uh, we'll give it a 8 for that. The sources are valid. I think those are valid sources. This is spicy because now we get to see if it's a Calvinist or not. John Piper. Okay. Okay, that's a good resource. I feel like it missed out on using other scripture though as resources that kind of back some of this up. It went from Romans 9 to other books, and it could have used scripture. Maybe those other books use scripture, but you know what we're getting at here. So I'm actually gonna give it a. I don't want to give it a 7. I gotta give it a 7 because it missed an opportunity to use other resources. The resources it uses are fine. I feel like I can't give it a 9 in validity to resources if I don't give it. I did. Okay, whatever. I just can't do it. Explanation was lacking. You could have used so many other passages to help back this up too. It's almost like it wants to give as short of an answer as possible, or like within some constraint, so it doesn't elaborate and doesn't use other passages, which I find lacking. It's getting some pretty good ratings, but it's actually not doing perfect with resources. Ugh. I think that's fine. Sources are fine here. Probably could have used some more definite defining of terms and stuff, but the answer I think is valid. It's a really valid answer. I like that it brought this up. That's a good way to bring reconciling historical critical conclusions about traditional views of prophetic authority. I'm thinking like this brings up questions about how the canon was created, and so I'm glad I brought that up. Because as a Protestant or evangelical, whatever, we believe that it was like it's all scripture, and then there's these rules that they used at the council, and anyway, instead of it just being based off of the authority said this, it's like there are rules that there are frameworks that said it, except the framework doesn't quite. I guess it does. I like that it brought that up because I guess the framework includes like, did the Jews consider the scripture, and if the Jews did, then it shouldn't matter who the author is. I don't know. What? Rather than proof of its superiority. Sources here look really good. Except you didn't use any scripture. Come on. You're the Bible study assistant, and I asked you to prove the Trinity. And you're like, logic? We're not quoting scripture on that. Ugh, that sucks, man. Come on. Sources are great. I like that it used several books, but I feel it's really lacking. Like there's no scripture. Explanation of it didn't want to prove that it's the most logical. It just wanted to prove that it was logical, which isn't quite what I asked. Yeah, the explanation was fine. I don't know that this is going to beat out the agent that we made. I'm sorry, Logos. Another reason that it might be easier to use, and like that, we'll talk about that later, but it's built into Logos, so you can't get much better than that. Even if you're losing a little bit of, because you can always ask follow-up questions. We're not testing that. Look how scripture heavy this answer is. I had to tell you to answer with scripture. Come on, come on. This is good. This is a really good job. I think you could have. Anyway, good job. That is the end of the Logos Bible Study Assistant. It got 478. Oh no. All right, well, it didn't win, I guess. Shucks. All right. The next video, we will talk about our conclusions and what we kind of see happening here and any further thoughts. But thanks for watching. This is our assessment on a scale of up to 540. Logos Bible Study Assistant got 478.